Carpe diem. My name is Ultranatic. Excuse me a second. Yeah, I'm gonna drop the pretext here. My name is Jeremy Sherman. Anybody who's seen the credits of my videos will probably know that already, but this is not going to be a very typical review. For starters, I'm doing it with no clips whatsoever. I could just wait till some footage is actually ready for me to do clips on, but in all honesty, this won't be a comedic review of any sort. It's going to be a full-on, just plain old thoughts about the project kind of thing for me. So I'm doing this in a vlog fashion because I don't even think I could come up with comedic material for this movie because I'm not really sure what jokes I could make about it. It's kind of like making jokes about something like Gone with the Wind or the original Star Wars films. It's like, they're kind of impossible to make fun of. And that's why I'm choosing to do this outside of my character of Ultranatic, because it's just not going to be really in theme with any of those videos anyways. So, yeah, here's going to be my full-on thoughts on Steven Universe, which, as you can probably gather by some of the fan art I've got around me, I'm a pretty big fan of the show. I mean, hello, I got a Down Authority hat, Stevani shirt, the Stevani pins right on there, and tons more merchandise that you can't even see right now. I've been watching the show for a couple years now, and naturally when I found out a movie was going to be made about the show, I was super freaking excited. Although I was a little confused because if you want to know my thoughts on the show before coming into this, I felt like they kind of ended on a very perfect note, even though I'm told that there's actually a lot more to the show, which I'm definitely not against. But it's also kind of like having more Star Wars films outside of the original three. I'm doing a lot of comparisons to Star Wars in this video, but yeah, adding more just kind of feels unnecessary. Not that we haven't gotten some good out of it. A few bad things out of it as well, but let's not talk about those. My thoughts on the show first. One of my all-time favorites. The weird thing is, it took a little while for me to officially get into the show. I mean, I thought it was good. It had very likable characters, some decent humor, but it also felt kind of slow, and the humor could feel a little off, and probably a really controversial opinion. I thought Steven was kind of annoying at first. He's gotten way better since then, but yeah, he was kind of annoying, and yeah, that might be the point, but if the point of a character is to be a little obnoxious, and I find him obnoxious, you'll get points for achieving your goal right there, but it's still going to be kind of a demerit towards the character. But that's only how the show started for me. The more I watched and the more I saw, the more I just fell in love with the show. I love the characters, the ideas, the animation, the music. It really is one of my all-time favorite shows. So when the movie was first announced, I was like, really? Freaking great! A little concerned, considering that Cartoon Network's track record with movies has not been the best necessarily, at least not successfully or critically. But considering this was airing on Cartoon Network instead of in cinemas, I was kind of having the bar lowered a touch even for a show I really love. But I was thinking to myself, yeah, they're obviously not going for a moneymaker here, but just sort of a love letter for all the fans. And I'll definitely say they followed through on something like that. Now, before I go any further with this review, I'm going to spoil things later in the video. Not yet. If you want to keep watching for my general thoughts on the movie, keep watching. But I will be spoiling it later on, right around this timestamp. So be warned right there. If you haven't seen the film yet and you don't want to be spoiled, stop right before that timestamp. I promise you I will keep it as spoiler-free as I possibly can. I'll have to give a few small details, but I think I can do a pretty good job in this case of not giving away everything that happens, because there is a lot of stuff that I could potentially be giving away in this video. But if you've seen the film already and you actually want a more in-depth opinion from me on the movie, or if you just don't care about spoilers, then you can forget about that whole timestamp right there and just watch the video all the way through if you'd like to. With that said, let me give you my thoughts on the film. Not since Dragon Ball Evolution or the last Airbender film has a film based on a beloved property of my childhood so thoroughly let me down. I'm yanking your chain. It was freaking awesome! I'm on the back, got a lot of people just like tapping on their keyboards like, oh my god, how can you hate the movie? It's like, no, I was just kidding there for a second. I freaking love the hell out of it, and I am so psyched when it's going to come out on DVD, and when I'm going to be able to get that soundtrack. I pre-ordered it already. I'm probably going to get that in a couple days. Just, Oh, I'm so freaking close. It's just, there's so much I love about this movie. Is it perfect? No. Oh, I don't think there's such a thing as a perfect movie anyways, but oh, I really could care less about how perfect it is and just how wonderful and amazing it is. So without giving away too much about the actual show itself, let me give you the basis of what the plot is. So it takes place 2 years after the event of the most recent episode, which for those of you who don't know would be Change Your Mind. And I also recommend you don't watch that one immediately before either if you haven't seen the show, because there's major developments in that one, just like in this movie, so tread lightly on that one. When you do get to it, trust me, it's going to be freaking worth it. But for now, that's all you need. 2 years after Change Your Mind. After those 2 years, we see Steven's returning home from space, doing a lot of work out there, to go spend some time relaxed with all his friends. And I was kind of hoping the first 10 minutes would be how the whole film was, because I was like, I'm a sucker for happy endings with all these characters. But just as he's thinking his happy ever after is going to be right the way it was, a threat has to come along, of course it does, and everyone's seen the poster, and everybody makes the comparison to the new villain looking a lot like Jenny XJ9 from My Life's a Teenage Robot. I still love that theme song. The villain, named Spinell, that's one of the few spoilers I'll give away, but it's not really a spoiler because she's not a twist villain or anything. Thankfully. But apparently she's got some beef with the Crystal Gems, or at the very least Steven, so she immediately fights them off and is able to immediately poof them with this big scythe that she seems to have. And that's not going to seem like a big deal right now, but I'll tell you what it does in the spoiler version of it. She even hits Steven with it, which is going to be another big problem in the movie, but again, save it for the spoiler version. And on top of all that, she lands on Earth in this big injector, which, you guessed it, is injecting something into the Earth that's going to destroy it in a couple hours. And this big problem will also be given to Steven right as he was trying to get some nice and relaxing time with his friends. It's got action, adventure, and yeah, a lot of musical numbers. They really wrap it up that it's going to be a musical, and they really fall through on that. But the ultimate question I was asking was this: how long did it take for Steven to grow that neck? Okay, all joking aside, and those are pretty obvious jokes that other people have made anyways, this movie is freaking spectacular. Intriguingly, this movie was not going in a direction I was ever expecting it might have gone, because for some reason, even though the threat was on Earth, I was kind of expecting, hey, it's a movie, they're probably gonna go into like space or something, but they actually do stick to Earth. And not just that, they mostly stick in the same location, with maybe the exception of like 2 other scenes, but that's a different story. And the process, it's kind of a really good callback, and it shows all these really interesting memories with all the characters that we've seen before. Again, it's a little hard to explain what I'm talking about without the spoilers, so just take me on my word for it. If you're watching this movie because you just love these characters so much and how they came to be, you're gonna like this plot. I find it really hard to believe that there'd be a lot of haters towards this plot, but hey, you never know, anything's possible. I guess the new elements I should probably talk about as well, especially the music, which, intriguingly, I was a little worried about the music when I first heard that new song they had that they released called True Kind of Love. Don't get me wrong, I'm not slamming that song, it's just that compared to their other songs like Stronger Than You from the season 1 finale, or Here Comes a Thought from Mindful Education, or pretty much any song from the episode Mr. Greg, one of their best episodes I've ever seen, it wasn't quite as good as those, which I was worried about considering this is a movie, and normally for a movie you would be expecting to amp your game up like that. So, given that, I was worried that the music in the movie would be a bit of a detriment to the actual film, and thankfully it proved me wrong completely, because the soundtrack is absolutely fantastic, and I do still like the song True Kind of Love. I'm not even sure I'd call it the best song in the movie. A very good song. I do think there's better ones. Intriguingly, they weren't playing every card they had, I don't think. And in case you're thinking, well, maybe it's because that's the one song that Estelle, one of their biggest stars, might sing. No, Estelle has other songs in the movie, so it's kind of intriguing that they picked this. Not against it, still a good song, but it's a welcome surprise that the other songs were even better, in my opinion. Heck, in the movie, there's like 2 or 3 villain songs. Yeah, all by that same character I mentioned before, and she knocks it out of the freaking park in this movie. And considering my top 10 underrated animated villain songs list is one of the most popular videos on my channel, you can probably gather how high a standard I have villain songs at. But I pray that these songs don't become underrated at all. They deserve to be as highly rated as songs like Be Prepared, In a Darker Than Night, Poor Unfortunate Souls, just all of those greats. And speaking of which, let's talk about the villain for a second, because wow, she's an amazing, amazing villain, even by the show standards. For all the comparisons people made to, say, XJ9 as a character, more accurately, like, maybe that's by appearance, but by personality, she's kind of like what happens if you fuse... Steven Universe fusing, but if you fuse people like Babs Bunny and Harley Quinn into a character, and give her the powers of Mr. Fantastic, she's so much fun to watch as a villain. But they know how to make her really threatening and really evil looking at the exact same time, and they do give her they make her sympathetic much later on in the movie too, which I can really appreciate at the very same time. I don't know how they were able to mix it so perfectly, like have someone menacing, funny, and really sympathetic that you want to kind of give a break later on in the movie. I don't know how they made that combo work so well, but if there's any show that can make combinations like that work, Steven Universe might be the one. On top of that, all the characters you know and love are still great to watch, especially Steven, whose development is excellent in this movie. You can tell he's trying so hard to still be a really carefree teenager, but still be a leader of all these alien fighters that he's got on his side. It's just... Again, I don't know how they make this balance work so well, but they really do make it work. But do I see any problems with the movie? I guess if I really think about it for a second, but they in no way deter from the movie at all. But I did mention that it's a movie musical, and intriguingly, despite the show having done musical episodes, like episodes that are just filled with songs, and it still felt like the original Steven Universe then, it feels a touch Disney-fied here, I think. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's just that they make it a lot bigger with some of these numbers. Don't get me wrong, I'm a schmaltz for big musical numbers like that. Moulin Rouge, I love that musical despite its numerous problems. But like I said, in the show, they had a great musical episode, Mr. Greg. It's, like I said, it's one of their best episodes, and they could make the music sound fairly big there, but just down to earth enough to where it still definitively felt like a Steven Universe property, not somebody else's. Here, while the animation and the humor and just the way the characters talk still feels like the show, there's something about the scale of it that while it is a movie, it still feels a bit like, I don't know, still a Disney movie in some way, and I don't want to call that a bad thing, but it takes a little bit away from the feel when I really think back to it. But on the other side of that coin, I'm also kind of okay with that, because a lot of my favorite movie musicals that aren't by Disney remind me a lot of Disney, so it's kind of a give and take. And given all that, I think Steven Universe the movie should be in the same league as those films right there, as some of the best Disney-esque, non-Disney animated movie musicals. It completely satisfied me overall. More than satisfied me. I adored this movie. It had stunning animation, still great characters, old and new. The music was great, the dilemmas were great, and I just cannot wait to see this movie again when I get another chance, because the chance I just got to see it was so worth the wait. It was such a wonderful movie, and that's my spoiler-free version of this video. I'm about to do the spoiler-full version of the video, starting now. So the movie actually starts with, as the Chicken Little movie went, the opening of the book. Yeah, there's an actual storybook in this version. Again, you seen the Disney comparisons I was making earlier? But I'm willing to forgive that, because it also starts with these opening credits that remind me so much of the original Disney movies, like the older Disney movies, you know, like Snow White or Dumbo or Bambi, just greats like that. And Steven is trying to be persuaded by the other three diamonds up in Homeworld to stay with them, because they just want their pink diamond back so much. But of course he has to go back to his old friends, and honestly, they have a musical number which reminds me a lot of the song number Sign from the musical Annie. I mean, I'm not sure why there's just this persistence that comes along with it. It's almost like these ants that Steven has, which just so desperate, like, please don't go, you're our favorite grandchild. Well, wait, not ants and grandchild, but you know what I mean. And as I mentioned, he goes back to Earth, and we saw his developments, and we see that a new gem structure is being made in the city, being headed by Lapis Lazuli, Bismuth, and Perida, who are good characters. They're not exactly the big focus in the movie, as I was kind of expecting them to be a little later on, but they do get their own focus anyways. They're just not the focus. The party, of course, is crashed by Spinel, as I mentioned earlier, and she slices all the gems, including Steven, with that scythe. He's not hurt because it's a gem-based weapon and he's primarily human, but yeah, it's still gonna do some damage later on. He then takes that weapon back from Spinel and slices her with it. So now she retreats back into her own gem as well. Now, if you're like me and you know this show, this is not gonna seem like much of a big deal for anybody because we've seen all the gems get poofed back into their shells anyways. Is shell the right word in this context? Whatever. But they when they get poofed back, and they always just come back looking even better than before. That's not exactly what happens here. Apparently, that scythe, if I got the name correct, was a rejuvenator. I bet regressor, but one of those two things. And it does exactly what you think it does. It takes all the gems that got sliced, as we know them, and takes them back to the way they were when they first came to be. As they originally came to be. Amethyst comes out looking like the way she would have when she came out of her hole, which, I'll be honest, a little bit of the shock value from that's taken away because earlier in the movie we actually saw beforehand also what she looked like when she came out of her when she came out of the ground like that, which was really good. I was like, finally got to see what that looks like. But then when it happens again, it kind of takes away from it, so I thought that was a little redundant, but I'll let that pass. Ruby and Sapphire, you know, the people who fuse Garnet. If you're a fan, you know that. If you're not a fan, then I'm guessing you wouldn't. But, yeah, Ruby and Sapphire come out, not knowing anything about each other. No, they were Steven's favorite couple! And even Pearl comes out looking pretty much the way she did back when she actually, again, big spoiler for people who haven't seen the show, back when she shattered Pink Diamond. And ironically enough, now she has a new owner, and awkwardly, it's Greg. Yeah, that's a very special joke that the guy that she had so much tension with for so long in the show, now she's her servant. I was like, oh my goodness, that's kind of like if you wiped Heather and LaShaw's memories from Total Drama Island and made them think they were best friends. It's like, oh my god, there's so many jokes that could just write themselves in this situation. Even the villain becomes I don't know if the term younger is right here, but we'll go with that. Younger version of herself in this instance. And she looks really cute while still being a little menacing. I think that's kind of the point because now we know she's the bad guy. Just seeing her in this really cute looking form, you suddenly realize, oh, you know what she becomes later, of course. And yes, all their memories wiped. Total have to start from scratch on this one, which, I have to be fair, is a very good cinematic dilemma for this show. I always kind of wondered if the show could ever do something like that and how heartbreaking that would be for fans, but a really good conflict, and the fact that they actually did it, that was ballsy. I love the fact that they actually did that one. But what about Steven? I mean, he's a human. He can't retract into his gem at all. True. And he is not mentally affected by this. He's still essentially the exact same character. Well, the newly developed exact same character, but you get the gist of it. However, he suddenly realizes that he can't use his shield or any of his other powers for that matter. He can't even reach into the lion's mane and put stuff in or take stuff out. So everyone's kind of in a bit of a pickle in this situation. So he ends up going back to the other crystal gems, Bismuth, Lapis, Peridot, and has them figure an idea of how to get everyone back to normal. And they get the idea that every really big important development that we knew about these characters, you have to make them relive it somehow, and that might be the way that it gets them back to normal. And you know what? That's a pretty good idea in my opinion, and they're going to try and go with that. Starting with Garnet. Well, Ruby, Sapphire becoming Garnet. Thankfully for the plot, Ruby is still guarding Sapphire. That much hadn't changed. I guess that makes sense. I don't think they were supposed to be separate in the original anyways. So, yeah, of course they actually do still bond quite a bit, and it still feels very natural because they get in this really comedic situation where the regress Spinel has this giant pizza cutter. I don't know what this blade actually is, but it wreaks havoc and hijinks ensue. That's not me saying that. The actual movie uses that terminology, hijinks ensue. If the movie uses that term like this, you know it's a winner. Of course, Ruby sacrifices herself to try and save Sapphire in a similar vein to how the original showed it, to where she was saving Sapphire's life. But of course, Sapphire gives that prediction that Ruby's not going to last longer than a day. And all I'm wondering is, oh my god, is the movie going to freaking kill Ruby? Are we never going to see Garnet again? That's terrible! However, in a really clever reversal of what happens, it ends up being Ruby who's in trouble after doing everything she could to protect Sapphire, and Sapphire goes in to save Ruby. If you know the original, it's Ruby who saves Sapphire. But nope, in this instance, other way around. It still gives the exact same result, and they fuse back into Garnet the first time she ever fused back together as well, and that is only half of the puzzle in Garnet's instance because, yeah, now she's Garnet again, but she's Garnet the way she was when she first came about. She has no idea how her new form works or how she's supposed to feel about it, but clearly she ain't against it, otherwise she probably would have unfused immediately anyways. Steven then has to go and find Amethyst, who ran away somewhere, while Pearl is still catering to Greg's every beck and call. Again, I just find this really funny because you know these characters like that. So she goes to find Amethyst, who is still playing Shadow with Steven, just repeating everything he says back to him. So he takes time to actually start a new tap dance number with her to try and learn their secret handshake. I'll be honest, I think I forgot whatever episodes they showed that they even had a secret handshake in. I'm a huge fan of the show, like super freaking big, and you freaking see. I think I missed that part, unless they just kind of wrote it in, or unless it was between that 2-year gap, which is possible. It's just, I kind of feel like I'm supposed to know this already. I don't know. Is it me? Fans, if you've seen the movie and you've seen the show and I'm in the wrong on this one, like, please tell me, do they have a secret handshake? Because I would have remembered something like that, I think. But sure enough, once the dance number commences, Amethyst gets all her memories and even her form that she had originally had back, and everything's hunky-dory on Amethyst's part. Now back to everybody else. They're trying to figure a way how to take the injector out of the ground after being informed that, yeah, in about 40-something hours, the Earth is going to be essentially destroyed and all organic life will perish if it's not taken out. They can't do it. Steven even tries lifting it out of the ground, but some of the goo actually gets on his jacket. It evaporates that, and you even see a little blood. Like, not a lot, but a little blood right on his arm. Like, we don't see a ton of blood, but there are times where you actually see Steven get hit and you see blood. They're not pulling a Frybo on us here where it's just ketchup. No, it's blood. Again, gutsy move right there. So they come to the logical conclusion that if Spinel put it in the ground, she's the only one who can take it out of it. Or would be if she had any of her memories, which they can't even get. They don't even have any information on her. But the one character who does seem to have information on her, or did at the very least, was Pearl. I kind of figured out immediately that when Pearl recognized this character at the beginning when she landed on Earth, it was like, oh, let me guess, she has some connection with Pink Diamond, and Steven's gonna have the anger taken out on him, even though this isn't exactly his fault. We've been through this song and dance before. But they now have to get back Pearl's memories, and they don't really know how to, except coincidentally, during the end of the world, there's a big concert going on. And I'll be honest, if given the opportunity, I'd go to the concert at the end of the world too, just because you gotta expect it to be like a really great soundtrack. I really think I'd go to an REM concert if the end of the world came around. So I try to use the concert to get all of Pearl's attention away from Greg, because that's all it's been on. Still love this joke, but it doesn't seem to be working, surprisingly enough. But Amethyst gets an idea to do what she did a couple episodes back, and transform into Rose Quartz. Honestly, I think Pink Diamond might have been equally effective, but maybe we should know how much she looks like anyways, so we'll go with this for now. But even that doesn't work, so what to do? Probably the most questionable... I don't know how questionable this really is going to be anyways, but I kind of enjoyed this moment. Even if, yeah, you could argue some problematic issues here, but I'm just gonna go with it. The first ever male, all-male fusion between Steven and his father. Given what fusion is supposed to be, can you see the problematic part of this? This definitely gets Pearl's attention because now her, Greg Universe is gone. Yes, she actually calls him her, Greg Universe. That's... Oh, this joke is so precious. In the end, this does work in getting back Pearl's memories and her form as well, and even gives another big fan favorite a lot of the fans were looking for, a song number from Opal. Yeah, I'm totally cool with that. She fuses with Amethyst and they become Opal, and that fusion and Steven and Greg's fusion No idea what it's called. I don't really think it matters right now. Oh, it'll matter. Just not right now. It doesn't. But they do a duet. Or a duet times... I'm not sure how you do it. The math is so tricky with this. But suddenly, at the end of the concert, Spinell just runs away, and Steve has to go, of course, and find out who she is and why she ran away. Of course, she's gotten her memories back, and she even teleports him into one of the few scenes that are away from Earth to tell her the whole story about why she's so resentful and why she came to Earth to get revenge on Steven. It turns out Spinell was supposed to be like this playmate for Pink Diamond, because again, Pink Diamond, I guess, was the child of all the diamonds that they had out there. So, yeah, they had a lot of fun time playing, and then Pink Diamond wanted to have her colony on Earth. And she drifted away from the very clingy Spinell. I mean, yeah, if that was your goal right there, I can totally see what the issue was with that. And she pretty much forces Spinell to stay in the exact same spot for 6,000 years. I don't use this term very lightly, but Pink Diamond, bitch move. In fact, Spinell never gets any news of any of this and is just waiting patiently the entire time until Steven Universe, at the age of 16, gives that transmission that we all see in the trailers. That is an absolutely terrible way to get this kind of news. Like, Pink Diamond, not even a note. Anything? You didn't go back years later? It's like, hello! And Steven's reaction is, dang it, that sounds like exactly something my mom would do. I love it! I love that kind of comedy, because even we're like, yeah, she did act like a spoiled brat sometimes. Not an unlikable spoiled brat, but a spoiled brat all the same. But Steven says, hey, let's give each other a second chance here, and yeah, he takes him back to Earth, and after a little hostility from the other gems, she agrees to actually take the injector out of the Earth. Great! 30 minutes left in the movie, and the conflict's completely resolved. It's never that simple. Now, Spinell gets the idea immediately that they were just using her for just this moment, which is not an unfair assumption. You can see how heartbroken she's been over all these years, and even sadly thinks that what they were going to do was just have her fix this, and then regress her back with that same site before, because, hey, Steven still had it out, and he had no place to put it. Couldn't it just dropped it into the ocean or something? Like, I'll admit, that was probably the move you should have made, Steven. I'm not gonna act like you not hiding it at all was a bad idea, because he tried hiding it in Lion's Mane, but again, couldn't put anything in it, couldn't take anything out, so, yeah, I guess he didn't think about that, but if you're not gonna ever use it again, nix it. And she immediately just puts the injector back in the ground, and we're right back where we started. She even holds Garnet hostage, because of course Steven can't really be all that good. But I'm not exactly sure what it is that triggers Garnet's memories and form to come back to normal, but Steven uses the phrase "the truth" in the sentence somewhere. It kind of makes sense, but somewhat doesn't at the same time. I'm not sure how much sense it's supposed to make, but anyway, she becomes Garnet again, and of course we hear the song that we've all known from the movie already, True Kind of Love. And I'll be honest, for a climax song, it doesn't feel all that big. But I don't know, I think it fits a little better than I was expecting it to at the exact same time. Steven then trusts all the other gems to evacuate the city while he takes care of Spinell on top of the tower. The injector, you know what I mean. And they have a big fight where Spinell is still really bitter about everything that's been going on, but Steven's still just trying to be like, please, come on, we can still be friends with this. And oh man, I really wish all people had this mentality instead of saying, hey, let's stop the conflict, let's just try to talk this out. But it's never that easy in the real world. I kind of wish it was, but sadly it never can be. But then he realizes that he's the only gem, half gem, half human, you know what I mean, left of the group that got regressed, that never got his full powers back. Now, why is that the case? He's gone through pretty much every stage of what we've seen him before, but then he realizes that from all of it, he learned how to change as a person. So, somehow that's really all it takes to get all his powers back. I'll be honest, it sounds kind of simple. It's like, do we really need a big revelation for something like that? I don't know. I can care less that much. So, yeah, his powers are back now, and he can get into a full-on fight with Spinell. Okay, when I say attack, I more mean she keeps punching him, and he keeps guarding her with a shield. Same difference. And Spinell finally breaks down crying after shattering the entire injector, thinking, why am I doing this? You really are a nice guy. I just want to be your friend, and I was just so angry I didn't know what to do, and you know what? I can kind of see where she's coming from. Like, it's one of those times where you want to just be the better person now, but you've been filled with so much vile and anger of a situation that you have no idea what action to take except to just keep putting it on somebody else like that. No one likes that situation, and yet we've all been there before. So I really feel where she's coming from. So after that, then Steven and Spinelli actually do break up. I guess the extra climax in the middle of it was just to pad a little bit more time. I can't say I'm against that. I should be, I'm just not. But now what to do with Spinell? Well, the answer comes right out of the sky. For this show, that's not really out of the ordinary anymore, is it? It turns out all the other diamonds decide that, hey, if you're not going to live with us, we'll live with you. Where? I mean, unless you shrink down like Pink probably could, it's probably not going to be an easy place to find you to live. It's like, what are you expecting from this? But then they get the idea that, hey, Spinell has a very similar personality to Pink in that she's very jovial and knows how to have a lot of fun. What if they brought her back to Homeworld to fill in the void they've had with Pink being missing? They think it's a good arrangement, they take her back, and after a montage where everything gets fixed up back on Earth, we get one final musical number, and everything's better, and the credits then roll. You know, thinking back to it, I guess there were a couple small flaws with the plot. I really couldn't care less, though. I was worried they might play a little bit safe in places, especially considering that they weren't going to space, from what I could gather, but no, they still took a lot of chances, had great musical numbers, really cool new things that the fans hadn't seen yet, like, again, Opal scene and the fusion that Greg had with Steven. You finally got to fuse with your wife and son. Kinda, sorta. It's so weird me saying that. And it's just a pleasant movie overall. I adore this movie. When it comes out on Blu-ray and DVD, or just DVD, who cares how it comes out? I'm buying it. It's an amazing, amazing movie that does a lot of real good service to that show right there, and all the fans who enjoy it. So yeah, the movie gets a solid 10 out of 10 in my opinion. I guess on a more objective level, maybe an 8 or 9 or something would probably be more appropriate, but no, for me, 10 out of 10. This was such a fun movie to watch. I am so happy that they took that chance of not even having commercials play in the middle of it. That's how much they care about the fans. This is your movie. You enjoy it with no interruption whatsoever. I had so much fun watching it. Go see it if you haven't already.